Hey everyone, welcome back to Adirondack Adventures. This video is a little bit different than my normal videos. About a year and a half ago, I was contacted by a representative from the Genesee Valley Chapter of the Adirondack Mountain Club. They have an annual program that they do on a monthly basis called Outside Voices, where they basically invite people who have done various things in the outdoors, topics they believe their chapter members would be interested in, and they invite them in to give a presentation and conduct a discussion about various topics. The topic they requested me to come present was on the Adirondack Canoe Classic, or 90-miler. Well, I explained to them that I'm flattered and honored that they would reach out to me, but I can put them in contact with people that have been involved with the race for years and years and years and know it much better than me. And they explained to me that there were some members within their chapter that had seen my videos, and they were interested in me specifically coming out to tell my story. Again, I was flattered and honored that anybody would want to hear my story. I love the 90-miler dearly, and I can talk about it for days. So doing a 45-minute discussion or presentation on the 90-miler is very easy, and I took them up on their offer. And just recently, I had the opportunity to present. It was in early April 2026. It was a wonderful evening. If you've seen my previous video, Tips and Tricks for a Successful 90-miler, then you may be familiar with some of the content that you'll see within this talk. But I didn't watch that video or review that video before I created this keynote presentation, because I wanted this to be a completely fresh take and a new take on the 90-miler. So there's a lot of new information. Additionally, there's a Q&A section at the end where the audience members ask specific questions to me and I provide answers to them. So there is some additional information there. So without further ado, this is my keynote presentation on the 90-miler, April 8th, 2026 at the Eisenhart Auditorium in Rochester, New York. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for coming. And I was going to introduce myself, but Katie just did a good job. So maybe we'll just play a fun little game, because I know we're in a room full of hikers here. Does anybody know where I'm located in any of the photographs on the screen here? If you do, go ahead and yell it out. There's some clues in each photograph. If you know my videos, I have a YouTube channel, so you might have seen them before. You're close, yeah. That's the left side is definitely one of the brothers. I'm on my way to Big Slide. That's the Great Range behind me, and Saddleback over my head and Basin. Does anybody know where I am in the top right picture? If you know your mountain ranges, you probably know what's behind me. There's one distinctive feature on the left-hand side of the range that might give it away. Maybe the slides? Okay. I'll tell you, that's on Redfield. That's the McIntyre Range behind me, and Shepherd's Tooth is directly over my head. And the bottom one is not a high peak, but it is a fire tower, and there are high peaks in the background. And St. Regis Fire Tower. Good job, Sarah. So those are just some of the adventures I've been on, and that's my wife and my kid, dog, and they are actually my pit crew for the 90-miler. So I wanted to introduce them to you. I wish they could be here, but they're not going to be able to make it tonight. My kids at school. Yes, even you can complete the 90-miler. I know my first time thinking about the 90-miler, I was like Katie said, who the hell would ever do that to themselves? But it has been a life-changing experience for me. It has totally changed the trajectory of my relationship with the Adirondacks and the people that live in the Adirondacks and recreate in the Adirondacks. And this picture is me the second time. I had just completed my second 90-miler here, and I just met all of these people, more or less for the first time, and it felt like I was initiated into basically a motorcycle gang. that prefers to paddle on the water instead of ride motorcycles. But they won't meet you up in a bar, they won't hit you with a pool cue or anything like that. They're just a great group of people to be with. And that's the last day, which is a giant celebration in Saranac Lake where everybody celebrates with their friends and family, and we think about what we just do ourselves after we just went 90 miles. So tonight's going to be useful tips for a successful 90 miler. I underline the word successful because what that means is different for every single paddler. There's some paddlers that just want to do it one time and feel what it's like. There's other people that have been competing 30, 40, 50 different years. And it's been part of their life. Canoe racing has been part of their life. So let's get started. So what exactly is the 90 miler or the Adirondack Canoe Classic? Well, on paper, first and foremost, it's more than a 40-year Adirondack tradition. It's a 3-day social event that takes place always the weekend after Labor Day. It's a 3-day event. It starts on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, directly after Labor Day. And the initial intention was to kind of extend the season, the tourist season in the Adirondacks, fill the hotels another weekend, all the canoe rentals would rent another weekend, the restaurants would be busy another weekend, and also to celebrate how great it is to recreate in the Adirondacks. It's approximately 85 miles of paddling and 5 miles of portaging your canoe. Yes, you have to portage your canoe 5 miles during this race. And people ask me what it's like to be in a 90 miler, and I have to draw so many different wells in my life to even come close to describing it. But more or less, if you were to take a canoe trip and you were to make a sporting event out of it, and then mix your family reunion into it, and then a 3-day fish festival. And I wasn't at D-Day, but I imagine D-Day in World War II when everybody's storming the beaches and moving all in the same direction, encouraging each other, and the ultimate goal is to be victorious on the beach. If you can mix that in just a little bit, you have a small sense of what it's like to actually do this. But it is amazing on so many different levels. The Northern Forest Canoe Trail, a lot of people don't know about the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, but they're a 501c. They're a nonprofit that's tasked with maintaining the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, which is a 740-mile canoe trail. It starts in Old Forest, New York, and it ends in Kent, Maine. It's basically like the Appalachian Trail for canoeing. It takes anywhere between 3 and 5 weeks to complete if you're going to do it. And the 90 miler is the first 90 miles of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. There's a couple diversions for ecologically sensitive areas, but it's more or less the beginning of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. So this organization has been tasked with organizing the race. There's also several other races. If you don't want to do a 90-mile race right off the bat, the Northern Forest Canoe Trail organizes another one that's about to take place in about a month. It's called Around the Mountain. And it starts at Ampersand Bay and Saranac Lake, and you paddle around Dewey Mountain into Osita Lake and into Lake Flower, and you end at Riverside Park. That's only a 10.5-mile race. It's a lot of fun. It's a good warm-up. And there's also another one in Brant Lake in August. It's 6 miles. It's a lot of fun. So if you're looking just to taste what canoe racing is, those are good starts. I want to encourage people to get involved in the Northern Forest Canoe Trail because it's just a wonderful organization. They always need volunteers. I know the Adirondack Mountain Club is a lot like that. It relies a lot on people dedicating time and energy to making the Adirondacks a better place. So if you have the capacity to either donate some money or donate some time, please check out their websites. I think it's important that we provide some context about what the race course actually is and the geography behind it, because I was not really aware of the geography of the Adirondacks following the chain of lakes all the way from Old Forest to Saranac Lake. I had driven through there 100 times, but I really didn't know how they all connected until I started to research the race. But on the Friday after Labor Day, all the paddlers will meet in Old Forge, New York, okay? And the paddlers are released in waves according to boat class. We'll get into this a little bit more, but they want the boats to be racing boats that are similar to each other. It's like basically a weight class in boxing. You don't fight people in a different weight. Everybody leads in waves, and you paddle from Old Forge through the Fulton chain of lakes here. You go through first, second, third, fourth, and fifth lake is right here, where you do your first portage of the day. It's in the town of Inlet. It's about a half-mile long. You portage up the road and to a crest of the hill, and you put in sixth lake here. You'll paddle sixth and seventh lake. You'll do your second portage of the day. It's an eighth lake campground. That's a mile long. You'll go into eighth lake. You'll paddle short through eighth lake. You'll get to Brown's Tract. There's a 1.25 mile portage here, and then you paddle a very windy stream where you jump a beaver dam right here. And you enter Racket Lake, which gets really choppy and wavy some days. You'll paddle across Racket Lake. You go into the Marion River here. This is a 4-mile upstream paddle on the Marion River where you'll have to jump another pretty big beaver dam. Then you get into Ottawa Lake, Eagle Lake, and you'll finish here on the eastern shore of Blue Mountain Lake. It's 34 miles long. I stay in Long Lake a lot of times, and you drive down this road all the way down in the morning before the race, and it takes you 40 minutes to drive this. And you're driving down and you go, oh my God, I'm gonna paddle back. It took me 40 minutes in a car driving 55, 60 miles an hour. But it's a beautiful, beautiful race course. So let's move on to the second day. The second day, I have to mention the race course moves north through the Adirondacks, so the start and finish of each day is in a different location. That's logistically challenging. We'll get into what you have to do to do that. The second day starts 2.5 miles south of Long Lake Bridge, which is right here. You paddle the entire length of Long Lake. You get into the Racket River here. You'll be paddling downstream on the Racket River, but the Racket River is really flat and there's barely any current in it. So it's more or less like you're paddling on a lake. You get about 19 miles in and you do the only portage of the day. It's 1.25 miles over Racket Falls. It's a really kind of gnarly portage. It's rugged. You put back in on the other side of the falls and you have another 14 miles until you reach the Crusher. The Crusher's 5 miles northeast of Tupper Lake on Route 30. That day's 33 miles long, and because it happens after day one, it is a brutal day also. The third day, they actually go easy on you. It's only 22 miles, and there's only 3 portages. But it actually does feel substantially easier after the first 2 days, I have to say. There's a lot of fun on day 3. But day 3 starts in Fish Creek Campground. You paddle out of Fish Creek, you go south on Upper Saranac Lake, and you do your first carry of the day. It's called Bartlett Carry. And if you were to view any place at the race course as a spectator, I suggest you go to Bartlett Carry on day 3. I don't want to give away too much information, but it is an awesome energy in there, and it is a magical kind of experience. We all look forward to it as paddlers to get to Bartlett Carry. You go through there very quickly. You paddle through Middle Saranac Lake. You go into the Saranac River. You'll do your second carry here at the Upper Locks. It's only about 150 feet. You just kind of jump into the next water body. You paddle through here. You go to first and second pond. This is the third portage of the day. It's called the Lower Locks Carry. It's about 500 or 600 feet. You get into Osina Lake, you paddle into Lake Flower, and here's the finish line. You're 90 miles deep, and there you get to have a beer with your friends and family and actually relax and enjoy yourself and talk to the paddlers instead of just passing in a boat and yelling at them. You actually have a conversation with them. So if you're thinking about doing the 90 miler, these are the questions you should consider. And these are the questions I ask myself every single year because you kind of have to reevaluate your strategy every year, and sometimes things change in your life. So let's go through these really quick. I'm just going to go through them fast, and then we're going to drill down a little bit deeper. But the first thing you have to decide is whether you're going to go open touring or are you going to go as a racer. And open touring is a different experience. It's the wave one paddlers, they're the paddlers that leave the very first. They have the most time to get through the race course because a lot of them are first timers. They might be underprepared or not feeling fit. They may be trying to just have a different kind of experience where it's more of a recreational experience and not a rigorous competition against everybody. You're kind of just paddling with friends. Sometimes it's older people. There's a woman, she's 83 years old. She's been doing it 7 years now. And she paddles a hornback. It's 11 or 12 feet hornback, which is not the boat you want to go in the 90 miler with. But she's done it 6, 7 years, and she's a cancer survivor, and she's 83 years old. So what I'm saying is, if you want to do this, you can do it, right? It's one of those things where you decide for yourself. So open touring is an awesome experience. I went as an open touring paddler my first time, and I'm so glad I did because I wasn't ready for the racing. The racing is a whole different thing. And if you have no experience canoe racing, and you barely paddled a canoe like I did my first time, go open touring. We got to talk about what gear you need. The gear is very specific to the boat classes. I don't want to jump that one, but the boat classes, like I said, are like fighting classes or weight classes. So I paddle the solo recreation class. There's certain specifications of my boat that I have to meet in order to be in that category. If my boat doesn't fall into that category, I have to race with the other boat that matches that. So there's kayaks, there's guide boats, there's 4-man canoes, there's 2-man canoes, there's surf skis, there's stand-up paddlers. If you can believe it, people stand up paddle 90 miles, which is absolutely crazy that they do it. And actually 2 people did it last year and they got engaged right after it. Yeah. You knew you were with the right person when 2 guys are with you, right? So gear is very specific. I'll talk about what you need to do and maybe how you might have to switch it if you decide to go with a different boat class. Who is my pit crew? I remember the first time I heard that we need a pit crew for the 90 miler, and I said, what the hell is a pit crew for the 90 miler? But you do need a pit crew, and they're really absolutely important. I don't think you can do it without a pit crew. I was thinking about doing it without my pit crew when I was dumb. And then I realized it would be virtually impossible to do it without my wife and kids. Strategy for portaging. There's 5 miles of overland travel in a 90 miler. If you don't have a strategy for that, good luck. Prepare physically and mentally. This is different for every single person. And I tell you, I never feel like I'm prepared physically. But mentally, I'll tell you, I'm always over-prepared. And I feel like that is the best way to compensate for being not physically prepared, being mentally ready to do that, because there's so many times when you draw, I call it Marcy Dam syndrome. When you get to Marcy Dam after a big hike and you still got 2.2 miles out, nobody's going to help you, and you just put one foot in front of the other and do the death march. I draw on that so much in my life and so many other things. But Marcy Dam syndrome, if you know what that is, it helps during the 90 mile. Food and nutrition, daily recovery. This is a 3-day canoe marathon. You need to, Bethany did 7 days on the trail. You get depleted. You have to pace yourself. You have to eat. I lost like 15 pounds my first time. I'm a thin little guy already. I can't lose 15 pounds. But I did. It's mostly water weight, and you need to consume tons and tons of calories in order to kind of like maintain yourself over that time period. Logistics and accommodations. Not only what does it mean to paddle it, but what does it mean to actually be there? What do you have to do? Where are you sleeping? What are you eating? How are you getting transported to and from the race? All those things come into play, and if you're from out of town like me, and you're bringing your family and your dog, it adds a lot of different problems. When you're trying to get a verbo and you have a dog, you have limited places to stay. So let's go through this a little bit deeper. Open touring or racing. This is a photograph of Wave 1, the open touring group. It's kind of a tough thing to see, But what I want to point out in this picture is that there's all different boat classes in there. There's a kayak here, an orange kayak. You can see a stand-up paddler in front of that yellow building. There's 2-man canoes, there's 4-man canoes. There's everybody together. It's a lot of camaraderie. Everybody's in a good mood. Nobody's racing each other. They're kind of just having a conversation. A lot of times people will paddle in groups together as this and do it as like a group kind of thing. And it is a great experience. If you're looking for something new, take a look at the 90 Mile of the Open Touring. The paddling or the racing is a completely different thing. People take it really seriously. I can't even believe it. And the paddlers are out there for different reasons. They're out there a lot of times to win one of these plaques. This is my first win. It was 2023. Happened to be the 40-year anniversary of the 90 Mile, which is really special for me. But I was going to go open touring my second year, and I trained a lot my second year because I got my butt kicked the first year. Like really got my butt kicked, and I said to myself, I'm not going to let that happen to me again. So I prepared for my second year, and I unexpectedly pulled first place in my age group in my boat class. And it was unexpected. It totally changed my relationship with the Adirondacks and all the people I paddle with. That there is a pin. Every paddler that goes through, if you're open touring or racing, you'll get a pin. And every year you get a new pin. There's a first-year pin, a second-year pin, a third-year pin. If you go 40 years, you get a new pin. It's a different color, new design. And there's a woman that's done it 42 years. She's been there every single year. She was deployed in Iraq during the Iraq War in the 90s, and she missed 1 year. But she's done it 42 times, which is incredible. That you can stay that fit and not your life doesn't get in the way. So we did open touring, we did racing. Let's talk about gear. And I said that gear is specific to your boat class. I paddle solo recreation, that's in my boat right there. And that's me going in day 2. And that's a legitimate smile, I gotta say. I don't smile that much, but I paddle 34 miles the day before. I'm pretty beat, and that is me going to do 33 more miles. And I'm happy. I'm happy, I'll tell you, I'm happy in that picture. So, the gear you need is really important. Let's just go through some of my stuff. So it's specific to boat class I mentioned, and it's basically like an ultralight day paddle. So you don't want lots of stuff with you, but you also want the stuff that you need for 35 miles. You need to eat and drink, and you might need clothes or layers. The weather changes in the Adirondacks quite drastically. So having clothes that perform, and what I mean is that they wick, you don't sweat, they dry quickly. They might have some sort of waterproof capacity too, because the last 2 years it rained horribly, cold rain. I had 3 or 4 inches of water in my boat when I finished on day 2. So if you're not prepared to be in 38, 40 degree weather, cold rain, there were people that were on hypothermia, they were in the state of hypothermia basically. So making sure that you have the right stuff. Sun and bugs is the Adirondacks. You've got to protect yourself from flies and insects. The sun can be an issue. Pay attention to the probable weather. We know the Adirondacks, it changes quite drastically. In the solo wreck, I have to do everything myself. I paddle every paddle stroke myself. I have to carry my boat myself and all my gear. So the stuff that I use has to be carried in a single carry, which means my water can't be in an algae and I can't carry it in my hand. It has to be in some device where I can carry it on my back. You need protection from sun. I love these OR runner's caps. You can attach a sunshade to them and protect your neck. Sunglasses, always, the glare off the water can get really bad. A buff, you can wet it, keep sweat off your forehead. That is an inflatable PFD. Or a life jacket, life vest. You need an inflatable, or you need a PFD to race in the 90 miler. A lot of people use this inflatable. If you dump, you can pull the plug and it inflates. It's better than having something that's on your body, chafing your skin, becoming cumbersome as you're paddling. So that I wear on my waist, and if I need it, I can pull the plug CO2 makes it explode out, and it keeps me floating. There's my paddle. I can't tell you how important your paddle is. I went through my first 90 miler with an $89 paddle off of Amazon, and I paid the price. And I was the guy that was like, who the hell would ever pay $500 for a paddle? Now I know why you pay $500 for a paddle. Footwear is important. You got 5 miles of portaging. You want something that performs, it has traction, it doesn't get waterlogged. There's lots of different things that people use. Some people use a teva. Some people wear hiking boots because they want good traction and ankle support. I want something that I can run in that will dry quickly and isn't heavy. So I use trail runners. Your boat is really, really important. It's maybe the most important thing, besides the paddle. And I have 4 solo canoes, and I love all of my solo canoes, but there's only one you see right there with a racing number on it for good reason. But I want to take the time to tell you why I wouldn't. I love these boats for other reasons. I love my Hornbeck, I love my Old Town Pack and my Swift, but I would not take my Hornbeck through the 90 miler because that's a 13-foot boat. And just 13 feet versus a 16-foot boat, you put yourself at a major disadvantage. The longer your boat is, the faster you move on water. Also, the backrest in a Hornbeck is a fixed backrest. It'll get really uncomfortable throughout the race. So I like a back band that will flex with me. We'll move to the Old Town Pack. Love this boat. It's a Royal X boat, 33 pounds. But the traditional canoe seat, the fact that it's only 12 feet, this boat does not track at all, basically waddles like a duck through the water. So it would be suicidal to take that through the 90 mile. I love my Swift Key weighted 14. It's a carbon layup. It's really strong and light. Swift is known for having the most comfortable seat you can get in a canoe or in a pack boat. You'd say that's a great seat for the 90 miler. And this boat tracks relatively well. It's only 14 feet, but with this boat, it wind cocks drastically. So if you get a side wind, the boat will start to turn, and you'll basically be doing circles in the middle of the lake if you have a bad wind. So if in the 90 miler, you constantly get crosswinds, and you have to be able to mitigate against the crosswind. So the Swift boat, I would not take through because it'll just get blown around like a kite. The plastic boatwork Shadow, this is the boat a lot of us are paddling in the solo rec class. That picture you saw with everybody holding a plaque, everybody in that picture is paddling a plastic Shadow. And I love my plastic Shadow. I have a foot bar in my plastic Shadow. I have a customized seat that makes it a little bit more comfortable. But that is a great boat if you're looking for a boat to do the solo rec category. Look at the plastic boatworks. There are Hornbecks out there too, and they make fast boats. It's just the 16-foot boat is the one that people are paddling, they're racing in, not a 13 or 14 foot. In the end, it's a combination of this. It's your paddle, it's your boat, and it's the paddle. I've seen people in great boats with great paddles get out paddled by a paddler with more grit. I've seen, lesser boats outperform better boats because it takes all 3 components, and it's also a 3-day race, so sometimes you pace yourself in the wrong way, and the person at the end of the race is just the guy that hasn't slowed down as much as the others. So let's move on to pit crew. The picture on the left there is my wife and my youngest son and my dog, Portaging, walking me through inlet on the first portage of day 1. And I had all these grand plans. I was going to run this portage, I was going to do X, Y, and Z, and when I got 10.5 miles in, I was dragging ass. And I was walking this portage, and my son and my wife were giving me words of encouragement, telling me I was kicking ass, and I'll tell you, it helps. If your pit crew is there for you, telling you, keep going, we're proud of you, it could not even be your pit crew, it could be somebody else's pit crew, or a fan, but just hearing your number. If somebody were to say, yeah, 201, let's go, and you're paddling, it makes you go harder. So ringing a bell, encouraging people, there's a lot of that, even between paddlers, where people are telling each other, keep going, man. And it's a great thing to be around people that are constantly supporting you. This is before day one. These are my 3 kids, and it's a long day for them too, but they have a great time. I'll tell you what I like to do for them to make it a great experience for my pit crew, because it's not just about me, it's about them. What are pit crew duties exactly in the 90 miler? Everybody has different needs that they need their pit crew to do in a different strategy. But at a very basic level, and why I couldn't have done it by myself in my first 90 mile, I was going to sleep in my car and just do it by myself. But your car has to be moved up the race course. So if you get in you drive to Old Forge and you get in your boat and you paddle to Blue Mountain Lake, your car is in Old Forge. So you have to get your car up to the Blue Mountain Lake, and then you're going to start the next day at Long Lake and paddle to, so that you constantly need your car. So at the very minimum, somebody has to move your car for you. So pit crew does that. They move your car or transport you to the start and finish line every single day. They also replenish your food and water at specific points in the race. I have a specific strategy for my pit crew. This is being 8th Lake, and my son here has my Camelback. They have just given me a totally fresh Camelback that was cold, that had a totally different flavor than the one I was sucking on before. And I do that as a strategy because I like a nice fresh cold Camelback with a different flavor than what I've been drinking, because it allows me to hydrate a little bit more. They also provide dry clothes and an extra layer occasionally. It's been rainy the last couple of years, so wearing a shirt, taking that shirt off, putting a dry shirt 12, 14 miles in helps quite a bit. But like I said, moral support and just being there for you is most of what your pit crew will do for you. When it comes to pit crew strategy also, you need to develop a strategy that works, I put physically and logistically in quotes. What I mean by physically is that you're going to need help at some point. You're going to run out of water, you're going to need a snack. You're just going to want to see your pit crew. So physically, where in the race do you need support? And then logistically, because the thing that a lot of people forget, but as the racers leave in waves, the pit crews are leaving in waves also, and they're moving up the race course. So parking at one point in time might be taken, right? So as you're coming up to service your paddler, you got to deal with all the other things that are happening with the other pit crews. So it becomes, you got to kind of earn it. And the first time through, my wife had no idea what she was doing. Now she's a pro. But there is a huge learning curve for the pit crews. Each day requires a different pit crew support. Day one, as I said, may be the most important because it's 34 miles. And there's a lot of access to your pit crew because there's 4 portages that day, and how the race course is designed. You have access to your pit crew. Day 2, the only portage of the day is in Racket Falls, and if you know, it's a 5-mile hike into there. So your pit crew would have to hike 5 miles in just to give you some water. I don't make my pit crew do that. They actually get Day 2 off, and they go to Long Lake Beach, or they go to Tucker Lake and get some pizza. And that's why I say I'm going to do it all myself for this day, because it's just too hard for them. So there are pit crews that come in, and you see them and just, wow, you know what they went through to get there. Weather's a big factor too for your pit crew. Make sure your kids have the right stuff, right food. That's my son on day 2. He's trying to sneak in my boat. He wanted to go for the ride. And he's lucky I saw him, because there was 4 inches of water in my boat by the end of that day, and he would have been cold and wet. I make it fun for my pit crew. My kids each get $100 cash. My wife gets $200 cash. I'll tell you, when you're 10 years old and you get $100 cash, it's a great time. You can buy souvenirs. You can buy the ice cream cone. Mom just lets them go and do what they want. They usually buy me some cool souvenirs too. But what it does is they look forward to that time when they can just go and experience something that's completely new. And Accommodations always play a role too. You want your family and your pit crew safe and comfortable, so where you're staying matters. You don't want them transporting long distances to and from. And if you know that race course, there's only certain ways to even get in there. You come in from Indian Lake or North Creek, or you come in through Newcomb, or you're coming all the way around from Keynote Lake Placid. There's no shortcuts through there, so where you stay matters. That's why a lot of times I stay right along the lake. It's a central place that allows me access up and down the chain of lakes, but it's difficult because a lot of other people are thinking the same thing. Strategy for portaging. This is how I portage. I actually invented my own portage device, and I'm happy to say about a month ago I was just issued a patent from the U.S. Patent Office for my portage yoke. And you will see some commercial products this year coming out related to that, but I'm the new guy who started doing it different than everybody else. So let's get into portaging because it is a big component of the race. As I mentioned, there's 5 miles of that, 5 miles of overland travel in the 90 miler. Portaging in the 90 miler is both an event and a process. What do I mean by that? What I mean by event is that all of us have to do it. Every single person going through the race course has to do that one portage. It's at a specific distance in the race. It's a certain distance. There's metrics and characteristics of the portage that are all equal to each other, to all the racers have to do. The process part is once you get to that portage, it's a mile long. You need to attach your portage device, attach your canoe cart. You might have to go to the bathroom. You got to go to the bathroom a lot of times. You're not going to go to your canoe, so on the portages, if you got to go to the bathroom, that's part of the process. You have to do it. You might want to go and run. But if you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go to the bathroom. So knowing when to do that and planning even something as simple as going to the bathroom, especially as a racer, is something to definitely consider. There's this old adage in the 90 miler that the race is won on the water, but it's lost during the portages. And I can't tell you how true that actually is, because you could be the best paddler and you could get 2, 3, 4 minutes lead on the water, which is huge. If you know, if you're 4 minutes ahead of somebody in a canoe, you're way ahead. But then you get to the portage, and you have a bad portage. Your canoe cart doesn't work, and that guy that had zero technique, didn't plan, but was a trail runner, all of a sudden he's running past you, and you're going, what the hell? All those seat time in my boat, and now I got this trail runner guy running past me. But there's 2 rates of transport. You have your water speed and you have the portage speed. Some people are going to run that, some people are going to walk that. It's the ratio of both of those that make up your cumulative time. So if you're in the open touring group, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's kind of walking. They're not worried about their time as much. But if you're racing and you have a bad portage, it can mean your whole race. There's many different ways to portage. I mentioned I go against the grain. I believe it's led to my success. This is me putting on my portage device at the town of inlet. Because it takes me a couple of seconds, maybe a minute, to put on my portage device, I have to take into account. So I'll paddle out, I'll be in front of somebody, and then I'll see that paddler who's behind me, he'll run right past me. But I know I'm going to put my device on. Once I get my boat overhead, I can move more efficiently. I can actually run with my boat. If it's on my shoulder, it's very cumbersome. I get to the end of the portage, my posture's all off, I have difficulty paddling. So for me, putting the boat overhead and being symmetric and balanced makes me utilize less energy, and I can move faster. So taking that extra minute at the beginning is worth it because I can move faster throughout the portage. I get the boat overhead there. There I go. This is kind of a late stage prototype of the product that's coming out. So what I do is I attach the portage yoke to a front and rear thwart of my boat, and it basically this gravity sets on the yoke. There's a felt padding component, so the gunnels ride on the felt padding, and I can set these straps to the perfect balance point because I put my paddle in And sometimes I have some other things in my boat where it'll shift the balance of my portage yoke. So if I need to adjust it an inch forward or an inch backward, it's very easily done and quick and dirty. So that's what I use. The canoe card is very frequently used. I told you the C4, the 4-man canoe, everybody's using a canoe card for that. But it's added weight and you have to find a place in your boat. This is actually another common way of carrying it. I had never seen anybody do this until I did the 90 miler, but that's a 2-man canoe, and what they do is they just put it on their shoulders, they leave everything in the boat, and they carry it just upright like that. Sometimes people will actually run with it on their shoulder like that also. So there's lots of ways to portage. Become familiar with the different ways. Also know how each boat class prefers to do it, because that's knowing how they're doing it is good to know that information. So physical and mental preparation. The absolute best preparation obviously is to paddle the race course. There's nothing that can prepare you for the 90 miler except actually the 90 miler. Paddle the race course, do the portages. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. Sometimes I do get up to the race course beforehand and I'll paddle like a simulated day with a friend. But a lot of the times I'm just trying to simulate the race course in my home environment. I paddle Long Island Sound, which is really choppy, windy, tidal. There's lots of currents. And I'll tell you, when you paddle with choppy water and then you get to the flat water in the Adirondacks, it feels like glass a lot of times. So that's how I prepare. Practice portaging. I portage through my yard. I'll portage local hiking trails. But get yourself good and strong. Understand how to put your device on, how to take it off, all the different things. I was in Switzerland all of last August. So I got to train slightly before the July, and then I took a whole month off of paddling. And then I had about 10 days in September before the race. So I tried to do a lot of cross training, which was hiking in the Swiss Alps. I did some weightlifting, a lot of these lawnmower pulls, just giving yourself some general strength, because as you become tired and your technique breaks down late in the race, you're going to need just the grit and being able to just grind through it. So lifting some weights, doing some push-ups, being generally fit will help, although it's not paddling. I told you a paddle is really important, and these are my hands after my first 90 mile. And I'll tell you, they feel just like they look. Oh God, and they are badly bruised. The circulation was messed up. And it was really because I had no technique. I was using a paddle that was off of Amazon that just was not, the grip was horrible. And I just buried the paddle in my palm, and I'm just all arms. So that's what happens to your hands. And now, if it's going to be my 5th year, I don't even get a blister. You develop calluses, you get better technique, a better paddle has a better grip. And I paid the price, $89 Amazon paddle. The price looked great, but that's the price actually right there. They didn't say that in the listing. This is me after day 1, and I'm thinking to myself, am I even going to be able to stand? I am mangled, and I actually won. This is the year I won, but it doesn't matter how fit you are. Everybody leaves it on the race course. Yes, so the best preparation is that right there. Seat time in your boat. Just do mile after mile after mile. Practice your paddling. I film my stroke a lot of times so that I can tell if my technique is getting better. I listen to the sound of my paddle stroke go into the water. The noise your paddle makes as it goes into the water gives you a lot of good information. Mental preparation for me is a huge thing. I'm the type of person who believes that nothing happens in my physical world without it first coming through my mental world. Even if I'm not conscious of it. It's a subconscious thing. If the stuff that's happening here in the physical world is coming through the mental world, if you prepare yourself for that, you mentally prepare yourself for a 30-mile paddle, then you will be more prepared when that paddle actually happens. I actually paddle sections of the race in my head when I'm in the shower. I'm a weirdo like that, but there's so much mental preparation. I'm not constantly thinking about my gear. I'm thinking about where I'm going to stay. What do I do when I get to this portage? Where am I going to drag my boat? X, Y, and Z. What if my portage yoke doesn't work? What am I going to do? So there's all these contingencies that are constantly going through your head. So, study the race course. This is something that I had no idea what the race course was when I first went there. I briefly looked at it. But knowing what 90 miles actually is before you do it is helpful. You don't just go out and paddle it like a rabbit and not know how to pace yourself. And my first time through, I was just going 100 miles an hour, and I should have known that it's a marathon and not a sprint. But everybody breaks, there's this race, you feel like you're losing speed, so you just kind of keep going, and you don't really know what you're doing your first time through. Now I know milestones. I can tell you distances between different points. I can tell you how long it's going to paddle between different points, and that helps me pace myself or reassure myself that if I'm feeling a little like I'm dragging a little bit, oh, I only have 15 more minutes to that portage where I can use a different muscle group, rest my arms for a little bit. So it allows you to kind of stay motivated because you're more informed about the race course. Create a plan with your pit crew. Make sure your pit crew is really familiar with the race course too. My wife didn't know anything about the race course when she started this, and she's learned it. My second time through, actually, I left Old Forge, and we have a Honda Odyssey, and they have automatic doors, and one of the doors wouldn't close. So my wife had a dog and 3 kids. Door of the van wouldn't close, and she's supposed to meet me in inlet to give me fresh food and water. And she's like, how the hell? She couldn't even leave the car's, the door's wide open. So she had to call Honda. They had to get her in the factory. Some guy got her and said, you gotta cut the cords. She had to go find some wire cutters, cut the cords. She met me, gave me everything I need, but that's what she had to put through just to be my pit crew. I love my wife. I owe her big. But she loves it now, too. So now we're at food and nutrition, daily recovery. Food is one of those things where everybody has different food. And, like we all need different food. We like to eat different food when we're going hard. When we hike, we all bring different types of food. Some of us can go on less food, some of us need more food. I put that picture there with a handful of gummy bears. It's absolutely not a joke. I eat handfuls of gummy bears during the 90-miler because it's sugar, and it's something that you can chew on. It keeps your mouth watery, and it's just, you want something that's going to give you a little bit of energy, and you're not thinking about food so much. So gummy bears, Twix bars, Snickers bars, granola bars, things that are very easy to digest and quick to eat is what I bring. I use this liquid IV. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's electrolyte. You put it in your water, and you will need electrolytes. The first time through, I was severely dehydrated. I didn't drink enough. You should eat before you're hungry. You should drink before you're thirsty. Constantly be filling yourself with calories, especially afterwards. Before, after, and during is definitely different. Like I said, yogurts and protein beforehand, sugary foods during. Afterwards, I try to eat 2 dinners. I try to replenish my body with as much calories as I possibly can, because you literally must use, I don't know how many, but it must be 4,000 or 5,000 calories, I would say, you burn in a typical day. Logistics and accommodations is the last thing I wanted to talk about, and that's just a map, a general map. I talked to you about access, coming and going to those locations. And the one thing to point out on this map is that the start and the finish line are U9. And look at how big that area is. The starting line would be just off the map in the bottom left corner, and the finish line is up near the firelight there in Saranac Lake. It's 90 miles, and it's a long distance. So where you stay in that chain of lakes matters. If you stay at Old Forge the first night, by the time you get to the third day, it may be very inconvenient for you to be driving up and down the chain of lakes. So I prefer to stay at Long Lake. It's where I stay a lot of times. I have stayed in Blue Mountain Lake also, but you're centrally located. It's an hour from Long Lake in the morning. The next day 2, you start in Long Lake, so it's an easy commute in the morning. You finish up here in the Crusher, and then third day you paddle out this way. So a central location is what I would suggest. Friends and family are obviously something to consider too. I have 3 kids and a dog, so staying with friends or family is logistically difficult for me. Airbnbs and Verbos are what I use. There's lots of good hotels up there also. There's the Adirondack Hotel in Long Lake. There's Clark's Beach Motel, which is in Old Forge. You can basically stay about 150 feet from the starting line on day 1 at Clark's Beach Motel. A lot of people like that. They can sleep there, they wake up, they can go out with their boat, they can go to the bathroom in their hotel room before the race if they want to. So that's a good place there. Local campgrounds, a lot of people do this. There's a huge college contingency in the 90 Miler. Hamilton College, Lycoming College, Paul Smith's College. There's a lot of college students there. Many of them do it as a camping trip. But you don't get a hot shower. You gotta cook on a camp stove. And I'll tell you, after paddling 34 miles, I want a hot shower, I want a hot meal, I want a bed. There was a time when I would probably do it with all the college kids. There's no way I would ever do a camping trip now, but there are a lot of convenient places to camp. Friends and relatives, I gotta say, definitely, it's free, and you can move maybe from house to house as the race goes up the race course. That's all. I have some more, but I really wanted this to be interactive. I wanted you guys to, ask questions if you have them, because it's really, when I did my first race, I was so desperate for information, and it was like non-existent for some reason. I don't know if I was looking in the wrong places, but I wish I had a talk like this to go to, and I probably wouldn't have had blisters on my hands as bad as I did. So I'd like to maybe open it up to you guys now, and if we have more time, we can dig deeper into the race course, but I think that that's enough for you guys to kind of get a sense for what it is. If you have specific questions, I'd be happy to entertain them now.
What paddles do you recommend?
That's the question, if people didn't hear, what paddles do I recommend? You could ask 10 different paddlers in my recreation solo rec, and we all use a different paddle. So it depends on your technique, it depends on your cadence. I'm one of the only people that uses a Lendal Storm. A lot of people use a Werner Ikilos or a Werner Cypress, and that's a double blade. So if you were going in a C4, you'd use a single blade. So try different paddles. I will just say a paddle is worth the money. It sounds really like I would say, who would ever spend $600? But I'll tell you, it's worth it. It's the only thing you're actually putting in the water. It's how you convey yourself across the water. So the ergonomics of it, the design of it, how buoyant it is. My paddle goes in the water and it wants to bounce out of the water because it's buoyant. My Amazon paddle would rather sink. It's going to the bottom of it. So it's carbon fiber. I use a carbon fiber. It weighs very light paddle. So try different paddles, and you might find something that you like, and then you switch. Some people do switch. A wing paddle. Do you know what a wing paddle is? It's basically like a wing. A lot of people are using that, but it's a very different technique where you're basically just chipping the water, and it's a faster paddle stroke. But that's common. But good question.
Other questions? Yeah, John. What was your impetus to do it the first time?
I was looking for something new. The question, if you didn't hear it, was what was my impetus to do it for the first time? I was a hiker, okay? I was a hiker. I started my 46 in 1994, okay? And I finished 26 years later. And it wasn't because just life got in the way, and I never really had an ambition to be a 46er until I moved away from the Adirondacks, and I realized, what Bethany said, the Adirondacks are incredibly special. I mean, I've been to so many different mountain chains throughout the world. There's something strange about it. I think it's the rock, the igneous rock. It's so old, but there is such a weird vibe in the Adirondacks. I love the Swiss Alps. I love the Alps too. The Adirondacks draw me back. So I was a hiker, and I wanted something new. I was doing some canoe trips with some friends, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try this Adirondack Canoe Classic thing, and I was going to do it by myself. I had no idea, and I started researching, and I said, there's no way I'll be able to do this by myself. And I had some very serendipitous experiences as I was leading up to the race, and my wife was there, and she realized that she had to be there for me. So one day, maybe if we have the time, I'll tell some of the stories. They're long, but I was desperate for information, and it came to me at the right time when I least expected it. And it showed my wife that there's something going on with this race. And it's such a special community. And I said, the people, the volunteers, the organizers, the family members. I look forward to seeing everybody every single year. It's just one of those things. Even as a spectator, I encourage everybody just to go witness this. If you love the Adirondacks, experience what it's like to be part of this, because it's really a special thing. It's 43 years old, and it's been through, decades. The only time it was not run was during COVID. There was 1 year in COVID when they canceled it. But that's basically, it was just curiosity. To answer your question, I wanted something new, and I thought it was interesting. And now I have a bug. I can't even imagine not doing it. It's like, and I thought it was going to be a one and done kind of experience, and now it's like every year I got to be there again. So, and it cost me about $3,000 a year. My turbo, my admission fee, a lot of training and stuff beforehand, and my kids were pulled out of school. I gave my kids $500. But it's so important to me, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Other questions? Yeah. Is there any white water on the course, or is it all flat?
If you want to run Racket Falls, you can run it. I don't suggest it. No, it's all flat water. Last year was, if you remember, it was a drought last year, so the water levels were so low. At the end of Long Lake, a lot of us had to get out of our boat and drag our boat for 100 yards because it was that shallow. Racket River was so shallow. So the conditions really matter from year to year.
So I have a question. So how many people start, and are there ever any bottlenecks either on the river or on the portages where you're narrow trail?
Yes, it's become very popular the last couple of years. The last years they've maxed the rate. The DEC will only allow 275 boats, and they've maxed it out the last 2 or 3 years. The way they run the waves and they release the paddlers, they do it in a way where they're trying to really think about how fast everybody's moving through the race course so that there isn't bottlenecks. But just like anything, when you get to the portages, sometimes it'll be a bottleneck. It's a big deal too. Being out in front of somebody as a racer, it could mean a big deal because he might come through later when there's a line of people and you're kind of walking behind them. So there's 275 boats. There's definitely bottlenecks, but the organization is very well done to minimize the bottlenecks.
Is the registration first come, first served?
It's first come, first served. It starts July 1st is when registration. So this year the race I think is September 5th, 6th, and 7th, if I remember the dates. July 1st it'll open. It'll stay open until July 31st, and then they'll close it. There are sometimes people drop out, and you might be able to get in late if you contact the Northern Forest Canoe Trail much on a waiting list, but it has become very popular. There was these lull periods where it was not as popular, but whatever has social media, people see videos and stuff like that, and it attracts more people out there. But also they've promoted it a little bit better in the last couple of years also. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Labor Day is really late this year, so it's the following weekend, 11, 12, and 13.
Is it 11, 12, 13? Okay. Yeah, it was 5, 6, 7 last year.
Any other questions?
I have a question, but I just want to say thank you for your presentation, and I want to give a shout out to Sarah for telling me about the new band.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to come out. It's an honor.